Good afternoon to all of you. So, I've been asked to speak on the topic India After Ayodhya. Today the Parliament is discussing motions being moved in both the houses, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, to congratulate the Prime Minister for building the temple in Ayodhya. Religion is, as I've always maintained, and that's why I declined going to the temple inauguration when they came to invite me. We respect religion. We think it is the right of every human being to choose their faith, and whatever that human being chooses, the state and we as a political party will guarantee that that will be allowed to practice without any interference. And interference is what we are actually suffering today. So the parliament, the Supreme Court verdict said a trust will, in the first place, the Supreme Court verdict was a verdict. It was not delivery of justice. They called the demolishers of Babri Masjid as being a egregious violation of law and handed over the land to the same people to build the temple. Well, whatever that may be, we said verdict of the Supreme Court, we all accept, so let there be. The trust has to build it. The government and the state cannot profess or propagate any one particular religion. That is the foundational principle of secularism, which has to be maintained, and that is what is being violated today, and that is what we are opposed to. But to come back to the topic that we are discussing, I don't think Ayodhya temple building should be made a milestone to discuss whether what is before Ayodhya and what is after this temple built. So it is not a milestone. What is actually happening is that you have a continuum that has been happening for nearly a century. Not nearly, exactly a century. It was in 1923 that Vinayak Damodar Savarkar wrote a small pamphlet called Hindutva. He coined the term Hindutva. And what does that Hindutva say or mean, which is being practiced now? That this land belongs to those who have their Punyabhumi here and who have their Mathrubhumi here. They are born here and their holy places are in this land. So this naturally excludes the Muslims and the Christians whose holy places are outside in Mecca, Medina, or in the Vatican, or wherever the Christians believe, in Jerusalem, wherever they may believe. So this, he said, Savarkar then, is a political project. Hindutva is a political project which has nothing to do with the practice of Hindu religion. So religion is separate, but this is a political project, and in this land, only those who belong to the non-Christian, non-Muslim faiths, only they can live. Now this was in 1923. In 1925, the RSS was born. In 1939, Golwalkar, then their supreme Sarsang Chalak, what they call their supremo, Golwalkar wrote a treatise because the entire discussion in the national movement was Swaraj. Swa means we. He wrote a treatise on trying to explain who are we. And in that we, he says this has been since immemorial times a Hindu nation and nothing but a Hindu nation. And therefore all those are alien to Hindus. All those who do not uphold Hinduism are not nationalists and they do not espouse the national cause. In that treatise, he in fact adulates Adolf Hitler, and he says Germany has shown us the way of how ancient societies deal with foreigners in their land. And it's a lesson we can learn and profit from. And this has been the project that has been continuing since then. Now, to understand this properly, why I say it's not a milestone but a continuum. In the decade of the 1920s, there arose a very fierce ideological debate on what should be the character of independent India. When we achieve independence from the British, what should be the character of this country? What should be its political structure? And in that debate, three visions emerged. One, which was then led by the national movement, by the Congress Party, Gandhi, Nehru, etc. One vision, the main vision that emerged was that India, given its diversity, given its plurality, and given its immense differences in customs, languages, etc. that we have, the only political structure that can keep this country united is a secular democratic republic. The communist vision was that, yes, of course, it has to be a secular democratic republic, but we cannot stop there. The political independence we gained from the British has to be transformed into the economic independence of every individual in the country. That means the movement should be towards socialism. As opposed to both these visions, emerged the third vision, which had a twin expression. And that was that the character of the country should be defined by the religious faith of the people. And thus was born the Hindu Rashtra of the RSS and the Islamic Republic of Jinnah's Muslim League. Unfortunately, the partition took place, mainly of Bengal and Punjab. And then you had the formation of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. That time, the issue was that why don't we now declare ourselves as a Hindu nation? The national movement rejected it. Rejected it, saying that we cannot keep this country united or the people united unless we instill in them a consciousness of an Indian nationhood. An Indian nationhood has to rise above any nationalism that is confined into any particular religion, any particular faith, or any particular brackets that you can think of. So that Indian nationhood was to be supreme, and in a reaction to that rejection by the national movement, you had Mahatma Gandhi being assassinated. He was seen as the culprit. Today, we see a lot of Bharat Ratnas being given. Each one of the Bharat Ratnas is aimed at getting one particular vote bank into their pockets. Karpuri Thakur is given Bharat Ratna. Nitish Kumar is shifted to the BJP. Now, Charan Singh has been given the Bharat Ratna. So you have the RLD, that is his grandson, Jiten Chaudhary, now shifting to the BJP. And by that, MS Swaminathan has been given in order to appease the farmers who have been on agitation. So, this is actually a game being played in order to mobilize various sections of the population to support the BJP. So Ayodhya, in that sense, if it was actually a milestone, then this urge to make parties defect and support the BJP wouldn't have arisen. After all, that is what would have carried the BJP through. But they also realized it is not so. But getting back to our three visions, the development that was taking place. So it is the battle between these three visions. Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated, but then India stuck to its commitment to have a secular democratic republic. Then Nehru drafts during the same decade of the 1920s 1920, the communists formed in Tashkent because they were not allowed to function in India by the British then. 1925, the RSS is formed. 1928, Nehru writes that objectives resolution, which becomes the foundation for the Purna Swaraj slogan that comes out of the Karachi AICC session in 1931. And that entire development during that decade has what defined what is the ideological battle that is going on in the country. It's not merely ideological, but it's a straightforward political battle amongst the people of the country. What is the choice that you are going to make? And it is this battle that is continuing till date. And that is why Ayodhya is part of this continuum. And that is the three slogans or three demands that the RSS had always made. That is the temple construction in Ayodhya, abolition of Article 370, and the Uniform Civil Code, which Uttarakhand government has now passed as law. And surely, if they hope to return, and when they return, they will definitely enact this, which is going to be patently discriminatory. So what this means is that if the attempt is to convert the secular democratic republic of India into a rabidly intolerant fascistic Hindutva Rashtra, then the current constitution or the objective resolutions based on the foundations of a secular democracy, that cannot remain. And for the first time, when they had the complete control over the government and state power, you see a systematic dismantling of your constitutional order. Four fundamental foundational principles of our constitution are secular democracy, economic sovereignty, social justice, and federalism. These are the four foundational pillars on which your constitution rests. Each one of them is under a tremendous assault today. You see, secularism, it has actually been converted into saying that being Hindu is being secular. If you're a Muslim or a Christian or an atheist like me, you're not secular. Only a Hindu can be secular. And then democracy, you've never seen, we all fought the emergency, we were all arrested, we were all jailed. But this sort of attack on democracy, this severe attack on democracy, we have not seen before. People are in jail for more than 4 years with no charge sheet being framed. Anybody who dissents with this government is anti-national and he can be put in prison. So secular democracy, one of the pillars, is being systematically destroyed. The laws have been amended to ensure that now you don't even have to file an FIR before detaining somebody under the MPLA, by the ED in the Money Laundering, Prevention of Money Laundering Act. You don't even have to give an FIR. And they are all non-bailable. And the laws have been so amended to create a situation where anybody can be apprehended for any reason. And inverting, for the first time in India, you have inverted the principle of jurisprudence. Till now, what is accepted universally is a person is considered innocent till proven guilty. Now, you are guilty till you prove yourself that you are innocent. And to prove yourself, the charge sheet has to be there to say that what are you charged with. But for years now, that Elgar Parishad detainees under the UAPA, for more than 4 years now, there is no charge sheet on them. So what can they defend? They say that even he is an anti-national, therefore he is under arrest. So secular democracy, that is the way it is dealt with. Economic sovereignty. Every single national asset is being today sold or virtually looted, including the rights of the tribals, which we, with the great struggle, we made the UPA one enact that right, the right to forest land. Now that is being violated without repealing the law by saying for mining and development purposes, deforestation is allowed by an act. So every single resource of our country is up for sale. So instead of economic sovereignty, what we have today is actually opening up avenues for the maximization of profit by foreign and domestic corporates. So economic sovereignty is being undermined. And all of you are familiar with the Adani case and the affair. I mean, in fact, somebody was jocularly saying that it was not Advani to whom Bharat Ratna was to be given, but it is Adani, and some clerk made a mistake and he changed the name into Advani. But the wealth of the country is being actually looted by this. Social justice. The Prime Minister goes on tom-tomming saying that he is an OBC and therefore, then he says no need of a caste census because there are only two castes in the country, the rich and the poor. And he stands with the poor. Why not a caste census? Because you know the reality of what is today the caste hierarchy that exists, and in fact it's deepening. The atrocities on Dalits and particularly Dalit women has been, escalating exponentially. And you have today the atrocities on the Dalits, atrocities on minorities, all that growing instead of social justice. What we have is the perpetuation of social injustice. And then federalism. I think all of you know better than I can describe it. You have a governor here who has no time to read the address prepared by the cabinet, but he has time to sit on the roads of Trivandrum and create and get for himself, a Z plus category, security. Well, anyway, these governors today, they going beyond their constitutional remit by not approving bills passed by the assemblies, by not allowing them to be enacted, and interfering in the functioning of the educational institutions, which by their ex officio position, they are the chancellors all over the country. This is happening in Tamil Nadu, this is happening in Bengal, it's happening, and the way they have been misused to topple governments and allow a minority government to be sworn in. So in this sense, federalism today, and the worst federalism attack is on fiscal federalism. We have a finance commission that recommended 42% of the central tax revenue to be shared with the states. It has not crossed 32 so far, 32%. And I think Kerala gets much less than even that. And this way, they are accumulating, that is the union government, accumulating wealth by imposing what is called cess and surcharges. And in that sense, they get the revenue not shareable with the states, and therefore the pillar of federalism is also being assaulted. Because if you want to convert a secular democratic republic into a fascistic Hindutva Rashtra, you require a unitary state. You don't require a federal state. A federal state is actually an obstacle. So you require all authority concentrated in the hands of the center, and that's exactly what is being done. So what we see is the dismantling of your constitutional order, paving the way for a transition towards a Hindutva Rashtra. And in this process, you will also require to undermine the institutions that are independent, created by our constitution. From the parliament itself, Sometimes I keep jokingly commenting that I left the parliament at the right time, because after that there's not been any debate on any bills. Nothing happened in the parliament. The brute majority, we call it the tyranny of the majority. The tyranny of the majority, parliament is absolutely undermined. You have the Shengol being taken there to the parliament, and what is the message given? In a democracy, in a republic, the relation between people and the government is that of government and a citizen. Every citizen has equal rights. Under feudal order, what is it? Is the ruler and the subject. Sengol is the representative of that conversion that is being sought. You have one Raja and all of us are Praja. And that is the manner in which this whole thing, institution of parliamentary democracy, is being destroyed. Then you have the Supreme Court. I must be careful in what I'll have to say, because there's always this question of contempt that will come in. But honorable justices have to be, my appeal to them, including the Chief Justice, is please walk your talk. You give very high sounding lectures and talks on the principles of justice and delivery, but when actually the judgments come, many of them are judgments which have not heightened the prestige of the Supreme Court of India. Article 370 abrogation, for instance. Tomorrow they can convert Kerala into a Travancore and Malabar Union territories. Nothing can stop them. Supreme Court has given the sanction. The statehood can go. So if this is, and the Election Commission, even after the code of conduct is declared and done it, you have the Prime Minister going on inaugurating every single Vande Bharat train, and he goes into the states and inaugurating all sorts of projects which will never get materialized, but for election purposes that's being allowed, but no action is taken. Then of course you have the notorious ED and the CBI. And the ED is the biggest ally of the Modi government today. In the sense that it has ensured that many state governments, democratically elected by the people, can actually be destabilized, and a BJP government is actually installed there. And this is happening legally, because as I told you earlier, that they enacted laws to allow the ED to act in such a fashion. Now you have, because why Ayodhya is not a milestone, is that they see today the possibility of their seats reduced in certain states, and there they are acting. In Bihar, for instance, in order to anticipating a reduction in their number of MPs from there, you have toppled that government and got Nitish back to themselves. Karnataka, you fight against the Janata Dal secular, but you unite with them now before the Lok Sabha elections, so that you can minimize your losses in Karnataka. Maharashtra, which has the highest number of MPs after UP now, 48, there you divide the NCP and the Shiv Sena in order to minimize your loss. So the confidence that Ayodhya is actually going to help them in this election is not there even with them. They have to play these sort of, do these sort of things in order to ensure that they can minimize their losses. So the result, the sum of all this is what? What we are witnessing today is a continuum of the effort to transform or metamorphosize the secular democratic India into a fascistic Hindutva Rashtra, which has exactly been their ideological persuasion since the 1920s. And that is now, actually showing them results, because for the first time when Modi came in 2014, they had the control over the government and state power. And if we want to actually safeguard our secular democratic republic, safeguard the fact that India, as we have been born in and as we have known of, will remain what it is or what it should be, then they have to be separated from controlling the government and state power. Otherwise, today, you talk of the Indian economy being booming, etc. But the fact is, we had the highest unemployment levels in the last 40 years, 50 years. What is worse that is happening is you have in India a reverse migration. When development takes place, actually there's a migration to the urban centers. Now you have workers from the urban centers returning back to their lands in order to survive. Now reverse migration is universally recognized as a very, very negative development in any country's economy. G20, you said we are the leaders of the developing world. India has the lowest per capita income among all 20 G20 countries. We have the lowest ranking in the human development indices amongst all the 20. We have the highest level of unemployment because we have the lowest level of labor participation rate in the economy. 142 we rank in terms of per capita income in the world. All other indices, most of you are aware of, where we have seen the backsliding in the last 10 years. Make in India, you talk of, and you say manufacturing growth should grow at the rate of about 12%. It is 5.6% today. None of the targets for Make in India in the last 10 years have been met, and we are very, very below, well below those targets. So the economy is in the ruins. But the cronies make their profits. So you have widening inequalities. And actual reality for the people is an intensification of their economic exploitation. But in order to achieve the transformation of a secular democratic republic into a Hindutva Rashtra, they will require the support of imperialism, and that is why you play the role that USA wants and the G7 would want you to play, and you join their alliances like the Quad, etc., and enlist their support to what is happening internally. USA, the great champion of human rights, so-called, not one word on what is happening in India to the minorities, not one word on what is happening to the democratic rights of our people, including journalists. But they support this government because it suits their interest today. The wealth of India is totally offered to them to maximize their profits. And then they require the support of the Indian ruling classes. And that is why this crony capitalism and the leaders of the Indian capitalist class are fully in support of this government because it provides them untold of opportunities to maximize the profits. So this is precisely the scenario that we are in today. Ayodhya is part of the jigsaw puzzle, the larger jigsaw puzzle. And the larger jigsaw puzzle is to transform the character of the Indian Republic. So what is required, as I said earlier, to separate them from holding the government and state power. And that is what we are all trying to do. That is what that India bloc is all about. But then how many will remain as the trend goes, that we'll have to wait and see. Nitish has gone there. Now Jayant, RLD will also be going there. But then that's part of the game. I mean, that is what that they do. But then it is the people of India that will have to rise. And that is why when he is targeting, I think Prime Minister Modi came here, he's visiting all the Ram temples in South India. And there's also a lot of rumors saying that he may contest from South India also, in order to build the link between Rameshwaram and Kashi. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But then ultimately, it is for the people to act now. And that is where I think an old, wisdom that flows through generations, ancient wisdom that tells you is, for the evil to succeed, the good only have to remain silent. For the evil to succeed, good has to have to remain silent. Now it's up to the people of India to whether they want to be silent and see this transformation, or raise their voice to defend our secular democratic republic. So that is the India that we are in. People's miseries are mounting. The effort to transform into a reactionary, fascistic Hindutva Rashtra are on, and they'll gain momentum if they are not stopped in this 2024 elections. And that is what we'll have to do. And Kerala, and all of you, for instance, you are the specific target for them, because this is the place where the RSS feels that they have their oldest and the strongest unit, but they are unable to even get a single MLA elected. And that is the whole country is grateful to all of you, all the voters in Kerala, for ensuring that you stick to the secular democratic republic and show the way to the country. Now that is what is required. So India after Ayodhya is the same as what it was before Ayodhya. In fact, worse. It is worse than what it was before Ayodhya, because this momentum to transform our republic, character of our republic, will gain will gain some strength, which has to be stopped. So that is why, finally, I think I'll leave more time for question answers rather than a monologue harangue to all of you. But if this is what is the task before all of us, that we have to rise. We have to rise together to save India today, so that we can change it for the better tomorrow, once you separate the BJP and this Modi from controlling the government and state power. So these are some thoughts I wanted to share with you. So thank you very much.
We'll be now moving to the question and answer session. I request the audience to kindly frame their question in a sentence or two so that we can accommodate more questions. Thank you. Yeah, so over to the audience. So you can raise your hands and we'll be asking questions.
Sir, my English is not good. I am told to the Malayalam. ആരെങ്കിലും ട്രാൻസ്ലേറ്റ് ചെയ്യണം. അംബേദ്കർ പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട്, ഭരണഘടനയ്ക്ക് മേളിൽ മതത്തെ സ്ഥാപിച്ചാൽ ആ ഭരണഘടന നിഷ്പ്രഭമാവുന്നു. ഒരു പക്ഷേ അംബേദ്കറിനോടൊപ്പം ഇന്ത്യൻ കമ്മ്യൂണിസ്റ്റ് പാർട്ടി കാസ്റ്റ് സിസ്റ്റത്തെ എതിർത്തിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അഡ്രസ്സ് ചെയ്തിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ, ഇന്ന് 2 തവണയായിട്ട് മോഡി ഗവൺമെൻറ് ഉണ്ടാവുമായിരുന്നു.
Since I didn't follow your Malayalam, shall I answer in Telugu? My mother tongue.
So the crux of his question was, had Indian communists resisted caste system along with Ambedkar, whether Modi could have come to power twice?
How did Modi come to power twice?
His question is that, had Indian communists fought caste system along with Ambedkar?
Well, you see, if you go back, caste system is always, Indian communists are very grossly misunderstood on this issue. When I was elected as the General Secretary, at my acceptance speech in my party Congress was actually to say that the class struggle in India stands on 2 feet. One is economic exploitation, the other one is caste oppression. And unless these 2 feet walk together, go together, you can't even walk. So this is not, it's not that communists are not aware of it or not working on it. But we have, in fact, in many places, today you go to Tamil Nadu, the party which represents the Dalit sections, that is the VCK, what does their banner have? Their banner has Buddha, Ambedkar, Karl Marx. So this is the banner that the Dalits are internalizing. So this is part of the larger struggle, and that is why for a communist, for a communist party to articulate, to have a caste census, is precisely emanates from that understanding that if you want to stop this caste oppression, then you have to give economic empowerment to the people. It is not changing of heart. It is not the Gandhian method of calling them Harijan and say change your heart and the oppression will go away. No. Caste oppression can only go when they are economically empowered. And that is precisely what the communists have always done through land reforms and giving them the economic empowerment of holding of land. And that is the process through which we'll have to move. So this is a process, a long struggle. But don't blame us and not doing that for Modi to come. Modi's coming has got to do a lot with a lot of the other parties. And what we see today, that you have, how can this Hindutva be fought? It has to be fought by relentless, non-compromising upholding of secularism, which is the separation of religion from the state and politics. You compromise with that, and then you're only feeding them. What is the soft Hindutva that is practiced? You saw what happened to the Congress both in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. Chhattisgarh Chief Minister of the Congress said, they are building a Ram temple, I'll build a Sita temple. And he said, this is the Vanavas, this is the route Ram took, and then they created a path. If the Congress chief in Madhya Pradesh, he has the entire pantheon of Hindu gods at the Congress party office. So the competition to saying who is a better Hindu, that is not to be dragged into politics. The moment you do that, nobody would buy a duplicate for the original. So the original gains. So you'll have to fight it relentlessly. That's why they are so angry with me many a time. They say you are called Sitaram, but you say all these things against us. I say I'm Sitaram, therefore I'm saying all this against you, because I know what you are saying is absolutely, got nothing to do with Hindu religion. I could not, like all of us, we cannot have the democratic choice of deciding where we will be born, no? So I was born into a Brahminical family. By the age of 11, I had my sacred thread being put, which I discarded by the time when I reached 17. It was hanging in my hostel room then. I don't know now where it would be. But the question is, we have been through this grind. Like many communists have been through this grind. Comrade A.M.S. Namboodiripad, Comrade P. Ramamurthy, all of us have been through this grind. So that's why when you go to Upanishads and all back to them, they get so annoyed. They think that you are very, and therefore they say you change your name from Sitaram. And that is why we tell them, you take the story of Ramayana. It is now history. They converted the Puranic tale into history. When we were young, there used to be a counter to this. There are many Ramayanas. In fact, a wonderful book by Paula Richmond, you must read that, called The Many Ramayanas. Is that eternal but different? But when we were there, there was a story called Ravanayana. And it's a very interesting story. Do we have time, James? Huh? We have. So that story is, it's about Ravana. Ravana was, I mean, Valmiki Ramayana also says, Ravana was a great Pandit, a Brahmin, who was a devout Shiv Bhakt. And the legend goes that when Shiva was doing his Tandav, Ravana used to provide the music for the Tandava. So one day Shiva is so impressed, he asked Ravana, you choose any boon, I'll give you. So Ravana says, I should be immortal, no human or animal can kill me. And he goes to Sri Lanka, goes back to Lanka and starts ruling for hundreds of years. He gets bored. He wants moksha. Now, how can you get moksha without dying? You have to die to get the moksha. So Ravana is the story of how does Ravan get his moksha. So he goes to Narada, that wily rishi you have. He says, please advise me what to do. Narada says, you are a fool, why did you ask this sort of a boon? I said, whatever happened has happened, but what is the way out? How can I get my moksha? He says, no human can kill you, no animal can kill you. Only God can kill you. So God will come in so-and-so yuga in the avatar of Ram. You do something, you get Ram to come and fight you, and in his hands you will die and you will get your moksha. So that's the story of Ravana. He kidnaps Sita for that. And Valmiki also says he behaves very decently with Sita. If that is what he had to do, why kidnap Sita at all? He kidnapped Sita in order to bring Rama to Lanka. And then when the battle goes on, I'm cutting this story short, it's as long as Ramayana, but when the battle goes on, every time Rama cuts Ravana's head, a new head appears. So Ravana gets worried. He says that if Ram also gets bored with cutting my head and I don't die, so he sends Vibhishana to Rama to tell him where to strike the arrow in a solar plexus where that Amritam is residing. So that is what Rama does finally, and Ravana dies and attains his moksha. So there is no good or bad, there is no evil or good. There is no villain or a hero. It is a story, a simpler, secular story. Now, if you tell this story to the RSS people, they say you are anti-religion, anti-Hindu, etc., etc. But then this is the traditions in our country. These are the various traditions in our country, and our customs and our traditions and our stories, and your Onam is the biggest example of how Mahabali is pushed down the earth. North Indian tradition. Vamana is the avatar of Vishnu who comes to save all of us from the demons, whose Raja was Mahabali. You celebrate his return for a day. In the north, they celebrate his death on that very same day. Therefore, so what is this? What is this Hinduism that you are talking about? So, but these are the things that we'll have to internalize and act on them to ensure that this does not transform into controlling state power and government, so that they change the character of our country. That is the big battle ahead.
The communist parties are known to be fighting for the downtrodden. That's how they came to power in Russia and China. Why the communist parties of India failed in the respects?
That's a very, it'll require another session, sir, to answer it properly or to do justice to your question. They failed in the sense that it's not the failure of Marxism or failure of socialism, but the manner in which socialism was built and sought to be built in Russia, which eventually led to his collapse. Of course, apart from the external factors who were always seeking the demise of socialism. So there many mistakes were committed, because remember, socialism was for the first time in human history, you're creating a society without exploitation of man by man. There's no blueprint. There's no formula on the basis of which you create. You go step by step. And in going step by step, certain mistakes were committed. As a result of which, you had that collapse of socialism in the Soviet Union. Aided, of course, by imperialism and the whole capitalist world who wanted that to end. China has learned from it. They are making their own adaptations. And in the process, they have emerged as an economic powerhouse today in the world. And they have human development indicators that are much, much higher than many European countries. So it is the basic principle is to have a society where there is no exploitation of man by man. And that basis, how do you go about building it? It's a constant experimentation. Honestly speaking, if you ask a Marxist, he would actually say study why the Soviet Union lasted for 70 years. Even despite the entire global encirclement of capitalism, how could it actually command the countervailing force to USA imperialism in every field? So these are matters that are connected with the implementation of socialism and construction of socialism. That's why it collapsed.
Lal Salam, comrade. Comrade, after the day of Ram Mandir inauguration, I decided for myself not to follow any of the mainstream media outlets anymore. I thought I'd rather support any of the, independent news outlets and support them. So, and then, the same media outlet that has become like a Sangapura mouthpiece for the last few years, maybe, at least for the last few months, they're organizing a literature festival on this very, theme. So this confuses me, comrade. Please help me understand this paradox.
I don't think that you require any answer for that. Thank you for saying
that. Good afternoon, sir. So my question, do you think Jyoti Basu made a mistake not accepting being the Prime Minister of India, and that's a problem with the left today?
Well, I'll answer you that question, but first of all, let us focus on getting rid of Modi now. That is what we are discussing at the moment. You see, the dilemma was what? We were 32 members of parliament, and the majority required for the government is 271. With 32 members, Jyoti Basu as the Prime Minister may not have been able to implement what he himself promised and the party promised to the people in our election manifesto. So in that sense, we'll be betraying the people, saying that you said, if you come to government, you'll do this, but you've not done. The other way is that out of the 271, minus this 32, there are other parties who will be making a lot of demands on various things to be done. And Jyoti Basu may have to implement things that he actually opposes on the ground, and the party also opposes. So that was the dilemma at that point of time, whether to accept it or not. I mean, you had prime ministers for 40 days, you had prime ministers who never went to the parliament, like Charan Singh, you had Chandrasekhar for 40 days. We didn't want Jyoti Basu, party didn't want. I would say, party didn't want Jyoti Basu to be like that. But they were very strong arguments. It went up till our party congress actually, and there it was decided by voting whether it was right or wrong. So now the matter is clinched. I mean, it's just going back into history. It doesn't really materially apply at the moment.
Actually, okay, so far you had talked a lot about the political games that have been happening in India. But one thing I find missed out is we don't talk about how much Indians themselves are being radicalized. Because we talk about Am I audible?
We don't talk about what?
We don't talk about how the ruling party is radicalizing Indians as a whole. We are seeing a democratic country where the people themselves are becoming undemocratic. And unless the opposition parties combat this radicalization that we see in social media and in daily life, they really don't stand a chance. So, how do we combat this?
We have to combat by going to the people. That's the only way. Remember, Hitler was also had popular support and elected to the elections, and then we saw what happened. So how you combat it is actually to appeal to the instincts of the people and to rouse them to rise in defense of what India is all about. Now that is what we have to do. That is what we have to do. That's why going to the people and then mobilizing them is the only answer.
Hi, sir. Uh, Hindutva politics is a very nice distraction tactic from the real problems of the country: caste, condition of the working class, environmental catastrophe. And there's a very famous clip of a man saying, "Roti nahi chahiye, sadak nahi chahiye, mandir chahiye." So, having interacted with the top BJP leaders, how much do they personally genuinely believe in this project, in Hindutva ideology, and how much are they just puppets for capital pulling the wool over our eyes?
Correct. Absolutely correct. That's why in the beginning of what I shared with you, I said Savarkar, who coined the term Hindutva, himself said this is a political project. It's got nothing to do with Hindu religion. So this has nothing to do how far they believe. For them, the belief is to capture power. Capturing power is what they want, and Hindutva is a vehicle for that. And from that, what do they want to do? Capture power in order to change the structure of our country and its character. Change it so that they can perpetuate their rule and also benefit the Indian ruling class and imperialism, allowing them to maximize profits. That is what is the reality. So it's not that they actually believe in what they actually say. And I don't know, some may believe, but that's beyond me to say that. But actually, their political project is the capturing state power. Capturing state power to change the character of India.
Sir, I recently read this article in Mathrubhumi Aishapadip, which says that our judiciary is now dominated by judges who believes in theocratic judiciary, who even quotes Vedas and Puranas in their verdicts. What is your opinion about this? Do we actually have theocratic judiciary in India? And I hope this answer will not give you a contempt of court.
Well, the judiciary in India has really been, in our opinion, many of the judgments have really been wanting. I mean, they are not the delivery of justice. It's a verdict they are delivering. If you look at it, delivering verdicts is bureaucratic. Delivering justice is jurisprudence. That's why I gave you the example of the judgment on Article 370 on Ayodhya. I mean, giving this land to the same people whom they say who violated law. Instead of punishing them, you're gifting this land to them. And then the electoral bonds case. I'm a petitioner. And the Chief Justice of India asked my lawyer, saying that you're a political party, so how have you come to appeal it? He said, we are the only political party that doesn't accept electoral bonds. We say that this is legalization of political corruption. The hearing is over. For more than 2 months, the judgment has not been delivered. Now, what is this delivery of justice? And in the meanwhile, 2 more tranches of electoral bonds were issued, and some thousands of crores have been collected, and all of us know where it goes. And now, before these elections come, many more tranches will come if the judgment doesn't come. But it's not coming. So yes, there is a problem in delivery of justice. This will be good. That's why I said I had to be careful what I say. But we are prepared for it. That's a different point. But that's why we say the honorable judges must walk their talk. They talk very high-sounding rhetoric of delivery of justice. But when it comes to implementation, the judgments are very, very wanting and much below what they say. So that is really a problem, and this is worse at the lower level. Now what is happening? We have a law in the country, the Religious Places Act of 1991, which says except for Ayodhya, when the dispute was going on, except for Ayodhya, all other religious places in the country, the status quo of what they were on the 15th of August 1947 will prevail, will be maintained. Now what is happening at the Gyanvapi Masjid? The lower judiciary has allowed Hindus to go and play and offer puja in the basement of the mosque, saying that that is where it was once a Hindu temple. Kashi, Mathura, these are the immediate targets. And you see the BJP leaders going on saying that we will restore every single of our temples that they claim were destroyed in order to build either churches or mosques. That means this is something that will continue. And that is where the judiciary has to step in to uphold the law of the land. As long as 1991 Places of Worship Act remains, no status can be altered of any religious place. But that they won't allow. That the court itself is violating.
Hello, sir. So we have heard a very famous saying that, so I'm here. Yeah.
Oh, there.
Yeah, so when we have heard this term, which says that when Rome was burning, Nero was fiddling. And is the same thing happening in India now? When we see every day of news about people being killed in Manipur. And the Prime Minister took so many number of days to even speak a word about Manipur. And he was happily tweeting about the congratulating on the foundation day of Manipur a couple of weeks back. So do you think that after targeting Muslims in Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh and many other BJP ruled states, have they turned their attention towards Christians who are there in their list of enemies as per the text bunch of thoughts?
Yeah, you see, the Nero example doesn't really fit in. Nero was only fiddling, but here you have the government and the head actually contributing to what you're saying is the entire process. The fact that the Prime Minister does not say a word on Manipur, the fact that all these days he doesn't have time to go and visit Manipur in order to settle peace, is encouraging this ethnic conflict and violence to continue. And what does the BJP want? In order to achieve their objective of converting this secular democratic republic into their fascistic Hindutva Rashtra, they need to sharpen polarization. Either religious polarization, Hindu-Muslim, Hindu-Christian, or ethnic polarization, which will also be converted into religious polarization, which is what is happening in Manipur today. The Kukis being termed as Christians and the Metis are being incorporated into the Hindu, Hindu fold. Now, that is what they need, sharpen polarization, and they are moving with that agenda. They are moving with that agenda. Their MLAs and MPs have attended the extremist Methi organization's conference where they have given a call and a deadline saying that if you do not remove this scheduled tribe status of the Kukis, they will, intensify their violence and attacks. BJP MPs were there, MLAs were there. So this is by design. It is not actually Nero fiddling away when Rome was burning. Here you have a Nero that actively encourages, abets such polarization, which will serve their purpose of transforming this country into a fascistic Hindutva Rashtra. Okay?
Though many more questions await due to time constraints, we have to come to the end of the session. We've come to the end of another informative session, and I'm sure it was definitely a great one. Thank you, sir, for being here with us today.